Alright, continue on. Some spoopiness. 5 most disturbing cases of real found footage by chilling scares. Ooh, I can't wait. I'm curious to see. The found footage horror genre is a subgenre of fictional horror films that presents the story as if it was discovered footage. This got me thinking if there were any real life cases of found footage. This video will cover 5 more or the most disturbing real cases I could find. Real cases, huh? Okay. All right. You piqued my interest. All right. I'm listening. I'm listening.
On January 8th, 2005, a man named Martin discovered a mysterious package in his mailbox. Confused, he brought it inside and opened it up. Inside the package was a single item, a videotape with no label or note to explain its contents. Curious to see what was on it, he put it in his camcorder and pressed play, and the footage he found on it was shocking to say the least. It contained a nearly hour-long video of a man describing the violent things he was about to do, how he was going to lure his victims, and the makeshift devices he was going to use.
I'm not trained in torture methods, which is what I'm gonna have to make do. I got my drill here. The reason why it's got this padding on it is just to try to silence it a bit, because I'm in an apartment. I got gags, socks, I got lots of duct tape. I got a soldering iron, sheets. Rather crude implements, I think can work wonders, especially if it's used in the right way.
However, while the content itself was extremely grim, what disturbed Martin more was the fact that he personally knew the person on screen.
What?
This wasn't the manifesto of a serial killer planning to take innocent lives. Instead, it was the final message of Martin's close friend, Ricky Rodriguez, a man who was tormented by a cult from the moment he was born. He eventually managed to escape the cult and was now planning to take revenge on the people who did unspeakable things to him for all those years.
Jesus, dude, that picture looks so fucking terrifying to look at.
He recorded this hour-long video and mailed it to his few friends and family so they would find it and have all the answers about what he was about to do and why.
I am making this video, well, for many reasons, I guess. I suppose the main reason is that I want there to be some record of the way I feel, my ideas, just who I was, really.
Ricky's story began 30 years earlier on January 25, 1975, when he was born as the first child of Karen Alva Zerby. Karen was a member of a cult called the Children of God, which used Christian language to lure in young, impressionable minds, often teenagers, and molded them to its sick and perverse ideals. 2 years after Ricky's birth, he was adopted by the cult's leader, David Burke, who presented himself as the Chosen One. David changed the cult's name to The Family and declared Ricky to be a religious herald, granting him a special position in the organization. However, while he was treated like royalty by the other members on the surface, behind closed doors, Ricky was the victim of vile acts no child should ever have to endure. David not only encouraged these acts, but went as far as to write a whole book about everything he and his followers did to Ricky, called The Story of DeVito. This abuse continued for many years, but as Ricky got older, he became aware of David's lies and manipulation. Then, in 1999, he finally managed to escape the cult with his girlfriend Alexia Manuel by faking a visit to the cult's compound in Mexico and fleeing to the US instead. Reintegration into society after 24 years in an isolated cult was anything but simple, but Ricky somehow managed to pull through and secure a job as an electrician. He also married Alexia and later moved to Tucson, Arizona due to his work. Unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried to move forward, the nightmare he escaped continued to haunt him. David had passed away in 1994, and the cult was now under the supervision of Karen Zerby, Ricky's mother. And while the cult had managed to escape legal repercussions by mainly operating overseas, Ricky knew that there were still countless children suffering the same fate as him. So, in January of 2005, he decided enough was enough and took matters into his own hands. Which brings us back to the video he recorded and then mailed to a handful of close friends and his wife. In it, Ricky mentioned his ultimate goal, which was to bring down the cult all on his own. Beyond that, a part of this was also about getting revenge for everything that was done to him.
there's this need that I have. This need, it's not a want, it's a need, and I wish it wasn't, but it is. It's a need for revenge. It's a need for justice. Because I can't go on like this.
In this video, he also laid out his plan for accomplishing this goal. He'd apparently gotten in contact with his previous nanny, Angela Smith, who was among the group that tormented him during his time in the cult.
What?
He was going to invite her over for dinner at his apartment in Tucson and make her tell everything she knew about the other members' whereabouts by any means necessary. And that's exactly what he did. On January 8th, after mailing copies of his recording, he invited Angela into his home and proceeded with the plan. It's unclear what information he managed to extract from her before taking her life. He then got into his car and drove to Blythe, California. There, he rented a motel and called his wife to tell her about what he had done and what he was going to do next. However, despite the meticulous planning, Ricky ultimately couldn't follow through with the rest of his plan. On the morning of January 9th, authorities found his car in a parking lot just a few miles from the hotel he was staying at. Ricky was found inside the car as well, where he had taken his own life. And while this was tragic news for his loved ones, it was hardly surprising for his wife. You see, Ricky believed that killing the cultists would bring him peace, something he reiterated in his last video.
I can imagine how I would feel, how liberating it would be.
But that's not what happened. During his call with his wife, he confessed that despite his anger and resentment, killing Angela was the hardest thing he had ever done. Taking revenge didn't bring the comfort he was looking for. He couldn't bring himself to take any more lives and decided to end it all that night, leaving his friends and family with this hour-long video to remember him by. As for the family cult, it remains active to this day under the leadership of his mother.
That's crazy that this cult is still fucking alive, to be honest. That's some crazy ass shit, man.
On October 4th, 2006, at approximately 6:15 a.m., the Barrie Police Department received a chilling call from a woman saying, "My children are dead," in a calm and quiet voice. The disconnect between her tone and the situation she was describing was extremely unsettling. When asked what happened, she replied, "I don't know, I don't remember." Police officers immediately rushed to the address she provided and knocked on the door of her apartment, bracing for what they might find. The door opened and they were greeted by 31-year-old Frances Elaine Campion. When the officers asked her about the children she mentioned on her call, she replied in the same disturbingly calm voice, stating, "Yes, they're dead. They're on my bed." As the officers entered the master bedroom, he saw the remains of two little girls, 3-year-old Serena and 19-month-old Sophia, lying on the bed. Both were dressed in clean clothes and were also wearing necklaces and earrings. However, their skin was starting to turn blue, suggesting they might have been deceased for quite some time. One of the officers also noticed a small bruise on Sophia's forehead, and that was it. There was nothing else in the room that could have explained their deaths. But as the investigators looked through Elaine's apartment, they found a camcorder with footage that explained everything. The recording started on a wholesome note, showing Elaine surprising Serena with a new bike on her 3rd birthday on August 8th.
Hi Serena, it's August 8th, 2006. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday Serena, happy birthday to you. Serena's 3 today, yay! Shall we go to the living room and see if you've got any birthday presents from the birthday fairies?
Yes!
Okay, let's go.
This is disturbing to see, to be honest. How her own mother literally, you know.
What is it?
It's a bike!
The next video also showed Elaine and her 2 daughters just hanging around and having fun.
I love you.
This much.
What
Oh,
could
I
have
love
gone
you
through
more
her
than
head to
that.
actually do this, though?
So far, everything looked quite normal. However, the 3rd recording, dated October 2nd, was when things started to get weird. The tone of the recordings instantly changed as Elaine suddenly went on and on about their horrible living conditions and the torment her ex-husband Leo and his family had put her through, said all in front of her children.
You can't see through the camera, boo-hoo. Oh, yes, this is a deplorable, horrible, messy, filthy apartment that supposedly my 2 children and I live in, and it's just a horrible, horrible mess. Yeah.
Doesn't look that messy to me, in my personal opinion.
I think Diego Campioni is totally in the wrong, and I hope he burns in hell for all his sins. The same as Leonardo. All I wanted to do was take care of my 2 little girls and live happily ever after the 3 years of physical, emotional, and mental abuse that I endured tremendously by Leonardo Campioni, and then the past year from Anna and Diego Campioni, the mental and emotional abuse, which wouldn't stop, and I had CAS keep bringing these 2 people into my life over and over again when I kept telling them the amount of mental and emotional abuse it was causing my 3-year-old daughter Serena and I and Sophia. It was horrible and uncalled for, and I want justice to my family for what they have all done to us. I cried out for help. They should have.
Leo was apparently extremely abusive, both physically and mentally. He prevented her from contacting her parents and at one point even kicked her in her stomach while she was pregnant. This resulted in Leo getting charged with domestic violence and the 2 getting divorced. However, at the time of this recording, Leo was starting to turn things around and was engaged in a legal battle with Elaine over the custody of their daughters. This took an immense toll on Elaine's mental health. She was already quite unstable and had been to the psych ward twice in the past couple of years. But according to her mother, the custody battle caused her to lose it completely and develop severe paranoia. She became worried that Leo would one day show up and forcibly take her daughters away. Then, on October 2nd, after ending this recording at 8:39 p.m., Elaine did the unthinkable by taking the lives of her own daughters, then recording a haunting confession that investigators discovered on the same camera.
What the f?
Recording this because Leo and I are being happy. Everything's gone. You wouldn't give peace. You wouldn't tell the truth. I begged. You even had Stacy not believing me, telling her I had to sign papers when I didn't. I went to victim witness to get the truth. Tried begging everyone the truth. How you beat me. 3 years behind closed doors, beat me when I was pregnant with Serena and Sophia. You didn't care about our babies, you didn't care about me, you care about yourself. You wanted to win, you won. Are you happy? How does it make you feel?
That's fucking disturbing, man.
How does it make you feel? Because it doesn't make me feel great. I've lost everything my whole life.
At this point, the camera cut to a later point where Elaine attempted to take her own.
I tried to overdose.
That means the remodeling time at their Aurelia and Braintree stores. They are changing the displays. Now is the time to make a great deal on an Ontario-made hydro-cooled hot tub. In-stock models, floor models, or custom orders, everything has a sale price. Pool Spa Sauna Showroom, making waves in Aurelia, Bracebridge, and soon to be in Huntsville. You can also check them out on the web at poolspasaunashowroom.com.
Elaine was arrested on the spot and was later charged with murder, with the found footage in her home serving as crucial evidence against her. She was ultimately sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
Holy shit, dude.
Years ago, the Bureau of Land Management published a public service announcement dubbed Stay Out and Stay Alive, educating viewers about the countless dangers of exploring abandoned mines, including the very real risk of cave-ins, volatile explosives, wild animals, and entire sections without oxygen. However, the most chilling part of the video was the story and the accompanying found footage of an accident that had occurred years earlier. On July 4th, 1998, a group of young men found an abandoned mine in Nevada and decided to explore it for fun.
Of course.
Though, surprisingly, the boys seemed acutely aware of the mistake they were making right from the start.
As you see Briz pointing out, stay alive. It's a good point, but we're not too smart, so we're gonna go anyway.
This is an unsafe mine. Danger.
Yet the allure of exploring a place untouched for decades was too tempting for them to ignore. However, the deeper they went into the mine...
I'm like, at this point, I would just send in a drone, you know, with actual, like, a camera on the drone and just go in there with the drone instead. I don't know, maybe that's just me personally, instead of me risking my life to go down there.
More dangerous it became, with the boys walking over sketchy wooden bridges to continue their journey. They even found signs of the mine caving in, but chose to ignore those signs just to venture deeper.
Of course.
There's lots of rocks and stuff that have fallen from the ceiling, which indicates that probably a good idea to be walking this way.
Yeah, like a robot
And,
or something like
Well, they've
that.
already
Yeah.
fallen, so they're not gonna fall again.
Well, there's more to fall still.
An important thing to keep in mind
Well, this was
is
in
that these were
1998,
professionals with prior
so
experience of safely exploring
It's different
abandoned
back
mines.
then.
This was just a group of boys looking to do something cool and film the adventure. They could have easily plunged to their deaths down a 1,000-foot mine shaft or gotten lost
But that's
in
what
the
I would have done,
miles-long
though.
maze of tunnels, which started looking more and more likely as time went on.
Yeah, we gotta remember where we're. Okay, we got out here.
Who painted these X's in clip? Grant? Where do they move?
I would never do something like this, to be honest.
Okay,
Never.
they're all got an X on. We can go this way. That one's got an X. So it's also got that.
Dude, they got
Where's the
lost?
diamond meet?
Where's that go?
Goes down.
Along there.
1998, July 4th.
Well, it'd be kind of hard if you slipped and fell. You could catch yourself before you actually fell down that. Not if panic set in and you scream like a little girl.
Toxic gases and radioactive elements could have also caused serious health issues down the line, if not immediately. Fortunately, they somehow managed to avoid all of these dangers and make their way fairly deep into the mine. But then they came across something that could have ended all of their lives in one fell swoop.
Got them pipes. Oh wow. We have to climb that.
Yeah, don't everybody get up. I got it. You're gonna be the lucky one to fall.
What the hell?
This is going to America's Funniest when somebody falls.
That's a good idea.
Alrighty.
Oh, that's the table. Don't touch that.
The ropes.
While crossing a sketchy section of the mine, one of the boys noticed a rope dangling down from one of the wooden beams and immediately became curious about whatever was down there.
It's down to the main shaft.
Wow, so we're climbing down this rope.
Yeah. How far down?
How are we getting out of it?
Climbing up it.
I see.
They had little rope climbing experience between them. However, they didn't let that stop them from accomplishing their desires. The guy
So you're telling me they have no fucking climbing rope experiences, but they're deciding to go down into the main shaft or so with little to no experience to climb a rope? What could totally go wrong?
named Adam decided to be the first one to descend, resulting in this.
How
He
far
fell.
down does it go?
All the way down to that ladder.
He fell.
We're
Like a good 30 feet.
We're like gonna hook this
I'll go
camera.
first. I am. About 300 feet. You don't like to break out.
I don't know about that one for this one.
Put it like he's doing it into your mouth. Yeah. It's all like this. Is it off now?
No. How am I gonna get the thing down there? Yeah, but how am I get back up? I don't have.
Take that. Give you my belt. Strap it on. Adam! Oh! Adam! Oh! Adam!
Yes.
Adam! Oh, God.
Oh God! Somebody help!
Adam!
The rope Adam chose to trust was completely worn and gave way shortly after putting his weight on it.
No fucking duh, of course. Jesus Christ.
This caused him to plunge 65 feet down a dark mine shaft and lose consciousness. Luckily, none of the damage he took on his way down was immediately lethal. He was still breathing.
What?
His friends were able to find an exit and contact the authorities, who eventually rescued Adam after an hours-long rescue mission. Ultimately, them escaping the mine without any casualties was nothing short of a miracle.
That is
The mine shaft
crazy.
could have easily been over 100 feet deep, or Adam could have just as easily hit his head on the surrounding wall. Both of these scenarios would have resulted in his death. What's even worse is that the whole group could have gotten stranded in the shaft if the rope broke when the last person was going down. With no way to contact the outside world, the group would have likely died of starvation. Fortunately, they were able to walk away from this terrifying experience with just a few broken bones along with cuts and scratches.
I'd rather go in a cave or so when it's like fully developed to show people for tours and stuff like that. Never in a fucking mine shaft, for God's sakes. Abandoned. The reason why they're abandoned mine shaft is because they have old shit in there that's rusted and stuff that can easily break. I just don't understand.
On the 25th of February 2022, the Paria Fuel Company hired maintenance workers to reopen one of the underwater pipes connecting their oil unloading dock and refinery. The operation team included 5 men: Christopher, Kazim, Yusuf, Rishi, and Faisal. They were going to use a pressurized habitat to inspect the pipe and make any necessary repairs. However, shortly after entering this habitat, all 5 men disappeared from the worksite, leaving those on the surface to wonder what could have happened.
What?
It wasn't until rescuers found footage from a GoPro mounted to one of the divers' suits that the full truth came to light. The footage showed the men struggling to open the valve keeping the pipe shut, prompting Kazim to go get a wrench.
Did they get sucked in?
He returned to the habitat and handed the wrench over to his co-workers. But then, a few seconds later, this happened.
Whoa. It exploded?
The moment the valve was opened, its low pressure created a powerful vacuum. Water rushed into the habitat, while the pressurized air violently forced everyone into the pipe. All 5 of the men were forced into the 30-inch wide pipe, faster than they could blink. After tumbling through the metal pipe at violent speeds for 1.5 minutes, they came to a stop at a section containing a small air pocket, just enough to keep them alive, allowing them a brief moment to find their bearings and assess the gravity of their situation.
Holy shit, dude.
All of them were barely breathing, and one of them had also injured his leg. And while the air pocket was keeping them alive for the moment, it wasn't going to last very long. So, with no other option, the 2 men at the front, Christopher and Faisal, started moving forward in hopes of reaching the pipe's end and getting help for the other 3. But after making their way through several flooded sections, Faisal lost hope and refused to go any further. This left Christopher to continue alone and ultimately reach the end of the pipe, where he was eventually pulled out by rescuers. Unfortunately, the same did not happen for his 4 co-workers.
Oh, wow.
Days passed, and the rescue efforts were slim to none, eventually leaving the other 4 to die in that cramped metal tube. The company's CEO later defended this decision, stating that a rescue mission would have only endangered more lives. The incident sparked widespread outrage and even forced the regional government to launch an inquiry into how such a disaster was allowed to happen in the first place. But, as is the case with countless similar incidents, nothing much came of it, despite the numerous hearings. The other 4 divers were left for dead. That said, the Trinidad government did announce a compensation of $1 million for each of their families, as well as Christopher, in April 2025.
Dude, imagine if that second guy would have actually kept continuing. He probably would have made it with him, but the other 3 would have been dead.
On April 28, 2000, 22-year-old Russian diving instructor Yuri Lipsky decided to reach the depths of the Blue Hole in Dahab, Egypt. This was a risky plan from the get-go, since the Blue Hole is widely regarded as the deadliest diving site in the world, with as many as 200 fatalities in recent years.
Jesus.
To make matters worse, before his dive, Yuri asked a local technical diver to accompany him on his journey. All of them rejected him, since the preparations for this risky of a dive took as long as a week. Yet Yuri wanted to go in just 2 days, no matter what.
What?
Even after every instructor refused to support his plan, instead of backing out, Yuri made the worst mistake of his life and chose to go through with it alone.
Of course.
He started the dive around noon and quickly disappeared into the depths of the ocean. However, many hours passed, and there was no sign of Yuri anywhere.
Of course.
His concerned mother enlisted the help of a local technical diver named Tariq Omar, who immediately set out to rescue her son. Unfortunately, by the time he found Yuri, it was already too late.
Yeah, of course.
Tariq discovered Yuri's lifeless body floating near the floor of the Blue Hole. The next day, he returned with the necessary equipment to bring Yuri's body back to the surface and got to work. But as he was about to take Yuri back, he noticed that Yuri's diving camera was lying nearby. So he grabbed that as well and began ascending. This camera had captured the final moments of Yuri in haunting detail.
Bulls. Bulbs. This is creepy to see, though.
The dive started like any other, with Yuri swimming alongside many other divers. However, it wasn't long before everyone else faded from view as he started to descend deeper into the blue hole. And that's when all the worst possible things started happening in rapid succession. It started with him failing to keep his gas levels under check, resulting in him getting nitrogen poisoning and becoming extremely disoriented.
Cananas.
By the time he realized his situation, he was already sinking like a rock. He started panicking and began inflating his buoyancy control device quickly to avoid sinking any further. Tragically, this backfired. The buoyancy control device bursted due to the rapidly increasing pressure, leaving Yuri no way of safely returning to the surface.
Oh shit, dude.
We taking it.
The increasing depth exacerbates the symptoms of nitrogen poisoning as well, and it wasn't long before his camera captured the horrific sounds of him struggling to breathe, ending with him sinking to the 377 feet or 115 meters deep sea floor and passing away. The only silver lining in this whole situation is that there's a good chance the found footage helped at least one diver avoid a similar fate by learning from the mistakes that cost Yuri his life.
Yeah, it's called preparing, not being a fucking dumbass. Jesus Christ, honestly. My lord, dude. The whole point of you taking a week to prepare is because you have to get the body ready for it. Dumbass decided to go in 2 days. No wonder nobody was like, probably everyone thought this guy was crazy. Justified that this guy was crazy, to be honest. It's kind of like, what the hell, dude? Oh, Jesus Christ. Anyways. That's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. Yeah, dude, that shit's wild to hear that. Yeah, but this guy was an idiot trying to go into one of the deepest parts of the oceans in the span of 2 days, which takes like a week to prepare, you know, to do everything like that. But nope. He wants to do it in 2 days. Everyone else that he like talked to that wanted to do it, he said, no, fuck no, you're crazy. And, well, look what he did. He paid the price for it at the end of the day. Anyways, that's the end of the video. And, peace.